Welcome to the Heart of Dad podcast. Heart of Dad is a podcast for entrepreneurs who are passionate about their families and business and looking to find more clarity, more balance and more alignment in all areas of their life. Come and join the community at heartofdad.com or on Facebook at groups/Heart of Dad. This week on Heart of Dad, I'm delighted to interview Jag Sohal. Jag describes himself as an end-to-end digital learning expert on a mission to bring an end to lacklustre video and boring online content. He's also a husband and father of one. So this week on Heart of Dad, I'm delighted to introduce Jag Sohal. Welcome to the show, Jag.
Hello, welcome, Matthew.
Great to have you here, Jag. So tell us a bit about yourself.
Oh, well, I guess the title I've given myself is I'm a kind of digital learning designer, making videos, educational videos, graphics, websites. So yeah, in the digital field, education, things like that. So it's a growing field, yeah.
Very, very big one I've been part of myself in the past and enjoyed very much. How long have you been doing that?
Oh, about 10 years now, really. Kind of did a master's in it and got the theory, got the experience now, kind of change the world, really. That's the way forward, yeah.
Perfect. And you have your own business doing this, right?
That's right, yeah. I went kind of freelance last year, was it now? 2 years ago. Just on the back of kind of stuck in a job that I was kind of I wanted to push further, but when you're held back by other people's visions, whatever like that, it's either stick or twist. And I kind of took the risk at that stage, really, to do this. But I believed in the market, believed in myself, believed what I was selling was good, and just went for it, really, and not look back.
Brilliant. It's quite a moment of truth, isn't it, when you decide to do that, when you leave paid employment and go solo?
Yeah, it's a roller coaster of emotions. I mean, the freedom, it's great, but end of the month, things like that, what you're so used to, that dependable monthly wage, goes out the window, really. Which is a great motivation as well, because you're always chasing, so that you're not kind of on your laurels. So I see it as a two-way thing. It's a motivation to get up in the morning, really.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it, isn't it? I mean, making your end of month is obviously a big motivation, but also that freedom. Was it exactly as you imagined when you made that transition, or how did it square up for you?
I guess I had no preconceptions, really. I knew it'd be difficult, but I knew it's got to be better than what's going on at the moment. I knew that I'm in control of it. So, however, it's only going to be as good as I make it, really. So, yeah, it was one of those things. I'm glad I did it, and now sort of I'm seeing a lot of people kind of seeing what I've done and kind of looking at the same thing, really. But like you said, we mentioned before about the commitments. If they've got a family, a mortgage, it's too much to risk, really, maybe, to do that, and I understand that completely. I guess we're going into later about support, doing this kind of thing. It's not just a one-man team to do this.
Yeah, definitely. We'll talk about that, because I think that's a really interesting area, and you had some great things to share when we had a chat before about that.
Yeah.
And of course, you're a dad as well, which is partly why you're here. Yes.
Well, 6 months, 5-6 months now, baby Jude. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's I don't know. Everybody says it changes your life, but until it actually happens, you don't realise at what stages. But you think differently. Everything's, it changes you. But again, it's another motivation to do this kind of thing. I'm not just doing it for myself anymore. I've got someone else to depend on, and it's that kind of. I guess that's the kind of man way of looking at things. That's my way of looking after the child. My baby, I guess. My wife's looking after the baby in that sense, but I guess existentially, I'm looking after him in that way.
Yeah. You're not the first dad who's mentioned that sort of primal urge to take care of the family and make sure they're okay, which in these days is not so much about going out with your spear and getting your kill, but
It's
making sure
a
that
kid.
you bring the wage home.
That's right. Well, it's akin to that. I mean, the workplace is quite kind of, it's quite dog eat dog out there. It is kind of a war in a sense. They're going out in the workplace, getting work. It's kind of, it is cutthroat, but not spears, but
Spears, not literally cutthroat,
digital
thankfully.
spears. Yeah.
Digital spears, that's it. Well, what have you noticed that's different in the 6 months since it's your son, isn't it? Do you say
That's
Jude?
right. That's
Jude,
right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
Yeah. What's
Yeah.
that?
What have you noticed, and what has changed for you in terms of your perspective on your business since you've had your boy?
That's a good question. I guess it's time management, things like this that pop up. Priorities, priorities. Of course, family comes first. We all know that, but sometimes business comes first, and that's kind of horrible to say. And it's sort of it's it's ends meets really. It's kind of a catch-22 situation where you're losing time with your family to help them out. Um, Whereas sometimes when you're with the family, you feel guilty for not being at work, and it's a horrible kind of quandary to be in sometimes. But I'm getting better at it. We're both getting better at it. Really, sort of really scheduling ourselves together, talking, communicating. Um, Not just talking about what we're having for dinner, but kind of just I do. The idea from working from home was the idea I spend more time with the family. That was the whole idea of it.
Mhm.
Um, so I've got to fulfill that role really too.
How's
I'm,
that working out in practice for you? I mean, obviously you're in your garden office right now, and
that's
your family, you've got your back turned to your family, right? I think is that right? That'd be
li-
too distracting, wouldn't it? Otherwise,
literally,
yeah,
and yeah, metaphorically, I've got my back towards them, yeah,
yeah.
and that's quite apt, really, in the sense that I literally don't know what's going on until I go back in, which is great as well because I don't want to be distracted. But yeah, it's switching off, going through that door, but going through that door and being a dad again and not being at work. But I take my phone in there, and sometimes that's dangerous, taking your phone in because one email or one phone call, it, it it's a distraction, or it takes your thought process somewhere else when it really shouldn't be on your family. And it's switching off really. It's switching off work, family, and life's become very kind of seamless in that way. I guess work and life balance. Everybody's trying to attain that.
Mm. Mm.
Um, and is there such thing as that? It depends. Now we've got phones, emails, 24/7. There's no 5 o'clock anymore. You know.
That's so true. And what um, that balance question is one I have been asking other dads who've been on the show, and it sounds like you've got some views about it. Well, how are you making it work? Given there is a possibility to be online all the time, to be in work mode all the time, even when you're back in the house with your children. What
Mm.
with your child? What do you do
The
to
the
manage?
really good question, that Matthew. Yes, we have actively done something like taking Wednesdays like to go out the house, to go out um, to a national park or something like that together as a family to all of us go out. And I think that's become a really healthy part for us to talk about other things. Walking is great anyway for your mind to think about other stuff. Um, to just talk about stuff that you haven't been able to because you're in your office all week. So it's become a really good release physically, mentally to do that. And we're lucky enough to be around such beautiful places for walks. So why not make use of it? It's free. Um, so it's kind of working out in that way. And it's initially was difficult. Initially the first Wednesday, I got meetings, got this and that. I'll have to move them. I moved them, and it wasn't a big deal. Nothing happened. It was the end of the world. And it was just that initial kind of push that, maybe the Thursday there was two times the amount of emails there might have been, but so be it. You know what I mean? I can't get the time back on that Wednesday, so I'm getting
I
those
love,
kind of
yeah,
feelings.
I love that kind of establishing of rituals in a sense, or routines at least, where you're creating space for yourself and your family outside of the work and giving yourself permission, which is the key thing, isn't it? To be fully present out there as you, and no better place to do that than out in nature, I think.
That's a really good term, giving yourself permission.
Mm.
Yeah, it is that, because we are hard on ourselves. We have to be. We have to be hard on ourselves and disciplined. And sometimes we won't take it too far. You know what I mean? There's nobody else to tell us. You know, just calm down. You just take a break. Because initially, taking that break has actually given me, rejuvenated me. You know what I mean? It is always good to take a break, and if you can do that with your family, it's two in one. So I definitely recommend that to anybody to do if they're able to do that. Take time out. Yeah.
What's the practical impact on your work, Jack? Does it mean that your work spills into the weekend, or do you work longer days on those other days now?
That's correct. Yeah, so I don't really have a weekend. I mean, that's kind of the way it kind of works, which is fine with me. Um, it's one of those things. So it's up to my time management. Um, Again, Wednesday off means maybe something else to be pushed, but so be it. That's the sacrifice we make, I guess, doing this. But yeah, it's fine. It's fine as it is.
Mm.
Yeah.
So some people I've been speaking to have been really kind of challenging the idea of work-life balance, even as a concept. It doesn't even exist. And one of my early guests, Tim, had a nice phrase. He called it work-life integration. That the two are
Yeah.
like on a continuum rather than an either or. And I just wondered what you thought of that as an idea. Do you see it?
Oh, totally. I mean, everyone's talking about working the flow of life kind of thing. Working is life. It's a seamless thing now. We mentioned it's 9 till 5, clocking off, going home, and literally spending. You would have to spend time with your family. That's the way it went. There's no making time for them; it just happened naturally. But it's yes. So, sorry again, Matthew. What's the question? I was just going to rephrase.
It was like,
what you're
yeah,
saying.
work-life integration is a better description
That's
of the
right.
reality, isn't it, rather than
I
work-life
would.
balance.
That's right. I mean, it's and it's up to you to manage that. Really, discipline yourself. But it's so easy when you got that in your pocket. When you're looking at it, you may not want to be looking at work, but it pops up on your phone because you got your emails on there. So maybe it might be a good case of having two different phones for two different lives. Having a work phone, but then you feel like you might be missing out. So it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible situation to be in, but it's up to yourself to manage it, really. But work life, yeah, even in the morning you're thinking about your day. Yeah, that integration is a great point. I think that hits the nail on the head, I think.
Mm. Mm. We're talking about phones, Jack, because that to me has been a real sore point at times with me and my business, and coming in back into the family time. I would say sometimes it's compulsive for me to look at my phone, to check what's going on, to see if I've got new messages relating to my business, feeling like I might need to have to address them. I think I'm better at that than I was maybe when I first had a business like 10 years ago, or 12, longer than that now, 15 years ago. But it's still a thing, right? It's still a thing. And it sounds like for you, that's also can be an edge sometimes, like how you have that discipline, not to be reactive to your phone.
That's right. I mean, I've invested in an Apple Watch. Well, I've had one to be honest, I've had one for a while too recently, but it's become so useful in a sense that half the time the notifications you get, you don't need to action. They're not important. But once you pick the phone up, you're inclined to look at other things and go off and tangents, and before you know, it's half an hour gone. So having this watch, it's like a notification. Oh, it's that. I can action it later. It's just on the fly. It's sort of really sped up my kind of decision making, and especially working at a computer and things like that. You already got enough distractions. I guess, like you said, the phone's a mobile office. That's what it's becoming, a mobile office.
Mm.
And it's up to you to put out of hours on it, I guess, in a mental state.
Yeah, yeah, nice. It's interesting that you said that. I mean, I don't have a watch, an Apple Watch, like you do, but I really like what you're suggesting, that it allows you to prioritize what is important and urgent without having to dive into the phone.
Yes, I would say so. Yeah, I mean, if it is something that's important, you would get your phone out and really spend time. But if it's just yes, it's a notification. It's yeah, it gets you once you're on the phone. I've noticed that a lot. That when you get a notification on the phone, there's two of us, and you kind of go for them. Then it's sort of that wasn't important.
Mm.
But there's some kind of power behind notifications, and it has a hold on you for some reason.
Mm.
I mean, over time. I think people have really developed this kind of habit with even just the sound of it triggers a reaction.
Well, they both
Um,
have they the sort of the dopamine hit of
that's
yeah,
that's it.
something new to look at.
That's what could it be?
Yeah.
99% of the time it's gonna be rubbish, but what if? What if it's something
What if?
brilliant?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword, but I wouldn't have it in my line of work. It's indispensable. It
Mm.
really is.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have it either way. Yeah.
Well, I'm sort of just switching tack a little bit now. Like, what's been the most challenging thing for you coming into fatherhood and owning a business? Would you say?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I mean, the status of being a dad's not really kind of sank in. I don't think being a father is something that you're called, but it's something you have to kind of prove. I guess something you have to do. It's a kind of doing word for me. So yeah, you're a dad, you're this and that, but what's a dad expected to do? What is that about? I want to fulfill that role the best I can. This is why it's been really good to talk to people like yourself to see, I know what my dad was like, but the modern dad is a bit different.
Mm.
We have to have two sides to us. We can't just be going to work, coming back, having our dinner, going back. Those times are gone. I mean, there's part of me that wishes there's a bit of that still, but those times are gone. I mean, we have to be family people now
Mm.
and juggle different priorities.
So what do you see as the role of dad? I mean, I'm really curious about
Oh,
that statement you just made. I think it's a really important one.
that's something I guess I'm trying to define every day. Um, at the moment, I guess I'm just primal in this sense that I've got the baby, I've got to provide. It needs stuff because really I'm quite useless as a father. I can do the feeding maybe sometimes, but
Mm.
really at this stage, I'm quite redundant until a bit older. I can do stuff, interact a bit more, um, but that's to come. But I guess I want to be at that stage where I can be a really good dad and not stress about the business at that stage. At this stage, it's quite early, so I am kind of this, there, everywhere. My time isn't really prioritized as much as it should be. You think a new dad would spend time every day, you, but then again, you ask the question, how are you working? And it's sort of that's on the father. It
Mm.
seems to be, which is fair enough. I mean, society looks at it that way. But my wife's also discussing about going back to work and things like this, and I'm back in my mind and thinking, I'll just be at home. I want you to be at home and just look after the kids, and I want to work. Let me have that responsibility because I know looking at being a mother is a full-time job. It is, and you shouldn't have to juggle like I am going to work or being a parent. And I feel that's unfair for
So
women.
what's your wife's driver out of interest? Is it economic? Is it stimulation?
Purely economic, I think, because she says I really because she's a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So most teachers, if they want, can get out of teaching, they would like to. Um, she discussed doing tutor. There's always different ways. You don't have to be a teacher to be doing teaching. There's other ways, but I guess we're discussing the avenues. I mean, it is economic, especially if you want another child or bigger house. Things like this are conversations you have going forward. Um, but part of me just kind of, I don't know. I don't know. It feels a bit uneasy with me to. I never thought to think that. That's surprised me that I felt
Mm-hmm.
this. I'm all for equality. Everybody should do everything, but there's no point both of us going to work than somebody else looking after the kids. That seems really alien to me. Maybe that's a cultural thing. Being my back, I don't know, but
I think it's a fascinating sort of topic, and one that's probably worth a podcast in itself, because I think there are enormous social pressures, aren't there, on parents to return to work, and the government, lots of policy prides itself on early years childcare and trying to facilitate that. But I think you're expressing something which is much more primal, and that is that children need to have their parents around, and of course, some people have to make difficult choices to return to work. But that doesn't take away the feeling necessarily that actually what they might prefer to do is to stay with their child.
no. I mean, like you said, I wonder what their priorities for going back to work are. Um, and each case is each individual is a different case. And I mean, it's that fear of missing out.
Mm.
For go away for too long, it's hard to go back in, and maybe they're thinking like we're thinking. I can't provide for my child. People's circumstances are different, and the family unit has changed so much. The idea of the family has changed within a generation. I guess it's adapting to it. Whoever adapts the best, but yeah, I've always felt a bit odd that women have to choose because both they lose out in both. If they go to work, they're seen as a bad mother. If they go to purely be a mother, it's like you're not professional. You're not looking as a good role model for your children.
Mm. Mm.
It's like why does society have to judge so harshly? Um, Everybody does the best they can.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely true. And where do you stand on like role reversal? If your wife was saying that she would be happy to go out and be the breadwinner, would you see yourself as a primary carer at home? Is that a role that you could take on?
I say yes now, but I know in reality, I don't think I could do it. That's in all honesty. I don't think that's I'd be best to do that. That's not using me my best skill. Um, it's something I would have to do if I was doing it, but yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? It's honestly, I'm not sure if I could do it at this stage, 6 months old, and the responsibility as well. I mean, I've been left a few times on my own, and the level of like insane responsibility, I felt like I just couldn't. I couldn't do anything else but look after the child. You know what I mean? I was very uneasy, and that's different. Responsibility for your business is different to a human being. Um,
I think that is a big part of it, and obviously, your son is still tiny, right? 6 months is very much a time. I mean, there are some people who put their children in care at that age, but most people are still, you know, nurturing. Most mothers are still nurturing their children at that age.
that's correct.
I think later on, it's interesting for me, philosophically, politically, ethically. I would have said like if the roles had to be reversed, of course I would do it. But and I don't know if this is going to be controversial or badly received, but I feel there are sometimes around archetypes of care, and that's without being sexist. There are archetypes of care where me as a man, I felt less well equipped to look after my son in the way that my partner could, and I could have done it for sure. I would have stepped in, and some do. And I'm going to be interviewing Michael Ray down the line, who's done that.
Oh, right.
He has had to look after his 2-year-old as the primary carer. And of course, there are lots of single dads. We're going to interview one today, and there'll be some others coming up. And so I'm sort of treading on thin ice in a sense. I don't want to sort of say something that isn't true for everybody, but I know personally. Well, maybe if I'd been put in that situation, it would have been different. But having not been put in that situation, I always thought, I don't know if I could do this. I really don't know. I don't know if I'm equipped to do it.
And that's just being honest.
Mm.
And I think that's the way forward, really. Otherwise, you put yourself in a situation where you let everybody down. You feel let down, and it's not a good atmosphere. Um, it takes so much patience. I mean, I've seen watching my wife is quite. It's just I don't know that patience. I mean, there's something biological about it as well. We can't, you know, we can't shoo away from that. There's something biological about that that we can excuse, but I guess it's difficult not to. I mean, it's. I've always said this. She's already looked after for 9 months. You know, this is an extension of that, really. I'm just really got to know him for 6 months. So you've had a longer time with him, really. That's it. So it's catching up. We're both learning it's at first. Maybe when it's our second, it might be a lot different. We know what to expect. I guess at this stage, it's the unknown.
Yeah.
It's the unknown, and everything's a stepping stone, a learning curve.
How about, go on, sorry. You
No,
go.
no. I'm just saying, and I'm glad that people are letting us do this kind of stuff, because sometimes people mollycoddle you and just show you everything, and you don't learn a thing. Going through this stuff, you learn, you get your own routines, like we said. You communicate and you bond, essentially, and I think that's important.
I think that's the amazing thing about parenthood, is that nothing prepares you, even if you do antenatal classes, nothing can really prepare you for the reality of that first night when you have your child and you're just alone, the three of you, if it's your first one, and you have that moment of going, oh, this is it, right?
This is it. You have that moment of silence, of kind of realization, of surrealness.
Yeah.
It's great. It's a magical feeling. I mean, it's something that you can't describe. Like you said, it's euphoric.
I just want to pick up on something you said earlier about patience, and you were starting to talk about how maybe your partner has more patience than you, and I don't know if you're making that as a gender thing or not, or just specific to your relationship. Because I reckon when you said that, I thought, oh yeah, that's true. Also, in my experience of being a dad, that my partner has, it seems to me at times, infinitely greater wells of patience than I do, relating to childcare. I wonder how that plays out for you in your life.
Yes, patience. I mean, patience in a sense that she seems to know exactly what she's doing, and it's her calmness seems to rub off on everything else. I guess being men, we want to fix things straight away. There's a problem, we want to fix it. Whereas she takes a different approach of, these approaches, and I'm sort of just learning really that, not a bull in the china shop. It's they pick up on everything, so just so I'm thinking, being very conscious when I walk into a room, my tone of voice, all these things. I guess I'm learning. So the patience thing, I guess it's like I'm learning to develop that kind of that technique of being patient. I guess that's a skill, a life skill, really. But I guess I'm very sensitive to sounds. That's one of my kind of things. And things are very loud. Things are very distracting. I guess that affects my thought process, and I can't really think rationally when it's noisy and things like that. So maybe it's something to do with me. It's something I need to change. But I think, like I mentioned, that man syndrome of fixing things straight away. And if it's not fixed straight away, it's you get a bit irritated. It's a bit kind of, why isn't it doing? Why isn't it happening? So it's developing that nurturing side, I guess.
When you talk about being sensitive to noise, Jack, are you talking about like even your baby's noise, your son's noise? Does that can that set you off on edge at times?
No, I mean, I quite like that. I mean, I quite like the sound of it in that sense. But I guess when you're doing, if I'm doing sensitive work or complicated work or audio work, for example, or got headphones on or things like that, it affects me in that sense in a professional manner. So maybe I might just change the kind of work I'm doing for a bit.
Nice.
Just change tact. Do something visual. Just do some reading. Just doing something different. That until it subsides. Instead of I'm doing something instead of creating more hassle, which doesn't help the situation. It's me changing. So yeah, I've not really thought about that. That's something I've done on the fly, just to help the situation. So yeah.
It's nice. It's
But,
that sort of having that flexibility, isn't it? I think it's such a
yeah,
powerful point when you become a dad. Well, for me, it was, at least, to um, you know, I wouldn't say I was set in my ways, but I certainly had got used to life being a certain way, and then with the arrival of my child, life was very different, and having to accept that things
not
would
going back.
go to a timeline or a particular way,
Yeah,
and even stuff like the, not the cleanliness, but the kind of environment can become very disordered when you have a child. And if you're somebody
that's
who likes order, which I'm just raising my hand and confessing here, I do quite like order. That has been a challenge at times when there's just like chaos. So I know when I go down
that's
this evening from this, but,
that's an interesting point. That's a really good point about physical chaos leading to your mental chaos kind
mm,
of thing.
mm,
Um, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I built this kind of office in the garden. It's my space. I can make my mess. But in the house, I felt things were being moved. My documents, my papers, my USBs. It's like, this isn't working really. And it's sort of that mess was leading to, they always say to clean up your room before you start anything really, because you need that cleanliness to have a clear thought process. Um, so yeah, that's a really interesting point about that mess, the chaos, which is great. It's great to have that, but separating that from work and home was really important. Um, yeah,
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 I can see that, and I've also had that when I'm working in a home office at the moment, um, and sometimes my son comes up to play, which is fine if I'm not working. But I noticed that he likes to start putting things out, and when he starts doing that, I can notice my anxiety rising, which is I don't like disorder in my workspace. So we have to agree some boundaries when he does that. Before he goes back.
that's fair enough. Which is good for him to know that dad's at work and this is a professional environment, and this it's for them to know the boundaries too, them to learn this is switching off on and off. But I don't want to ever them to think I'm unapproachable either. I would hate to think that's oh, can't disturb me at all. Um, it's 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 that really, like you said, and that's a bridge you have to cross, I guess.
That's the
Um,
amazing opportunity, isn't it? Because he will have dad working in the garden, which many kids don't get. Right?
I guess, yeah. This is cool. Yeah, this is a great thing, and it's always making it work in your favour, really, and seeing things on a positive. Yeah, there might be noise, but it's great. I wouldn't have it either way. I'd rather have that than somebody else in the office chatting about last night's TV. Do you know what I mean? That's nothing to me. So it's just a reality check, really, of sort of, yeah, this is exactly how I want it. I wouldn't have it any other way. But there are sacrifices, like you mentioned, and to not talk about them would just be not truthful, really.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a great segue into my next question, really, which is about guilt. And I appreciate it's quite early days for you in terms of your son's 6 months, but I think you've touched a little bit about this on the kind of finding the balance between what you need to do to make your business successful and make sure that you can provide for your family, and then that intent, like your special Wednesdays out to really connect and be with your family. And I'm just wondering, like, have you had to navigate that sort of tightrope of guilt yet between driving forwards with your business and being as present as you can for your child?
Totally, there's pinch points every day, and where this comes to fruition. Whether it's a morning meeting, my wife might have said, "Oh, this is happening today," and I've forgotten about it, and it clashes with something. So, uh, end of the day, sort of things like having to decide a professional meeting over a domestic meeting. Um, Either situation you lose, but you have to make that decision either way, and being decisive with his decision. So not being guilty for making that either or decision.
Mm.
And that's something I guess I'm learning. I guess the difference is when it's professional, I guess it's not as immediate, not as real time. The feedback. If I do something guilty in the house, I miss something at home. I get it there and then, kind of thing. as such. But
Yes.
if it's professional, it's kind of that could have had a massive knock-on effect. I don't really know immediately. Might have missed a meeting. I might have done this and that, or something might have happened, or I might have had to cut short a meeting when I don't really want to because I'm time pressured with something. And so these things kind of they play in you, and you just have to move on. You just have to move on, and try to do it better next time. I guess that's the only way to do it.
I love that perspective. And it's interesting. Like I've spoken, with different men. And there's a range of views about guilt, and some people are saying, well, I can see guilt isn't actually always a very helpful emotion because I think, as you just alluded to, sometimes you just have to make choices and be decisive, and there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do about it, and then kind of agonising guilt about it just creates extra layers of pressure and stress for you because actually, you're ruminating over something that's already done. And then sometimes it can be like a powerful reminder actually about what you might be missing out on when you make some of those difficult choices. And I think there is a role for it, but not if it becomes the kind of predominant tone of your existence in relation to your family.
Right. So you're seeing guilt as a motivation? Is that where you're coming from? Or as a
Guilt,
motivation? But
yeah, mild guilt, I'd say,
yeah,
motivation, not being racked with chronic guilt every time you
yeah.
you step into your office every morning because your wife and your child are back in the house. I mean, that wouldn't be healthy, right?
No, no. No, I don't feel that kind of guilt at all. No, I know what I'm doing is right. I guess the guilt comes with I've spent 8 hours in this office. Should have spent. Is this really fair today? But then again, had I been going to work in a normal kind of salary job, that would be the situation anyway. And I would have come back twice as stressed. So we've both made a commitment by doing this to make a commitment to our families. So we've already made that kind of massive time commitment, in my sense. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's a
you know what
brilliant.
I mean?
Yeah, that's a brilliant insight. I think a lot of people would resonate with listening to this because you already made the commitment by deciding to set up your own business and leaving the security of a regular salary to
Yeah.
change your lives in a different way. And in a sense, and I don't mean this lightly at all, but having a child is incidental to that because you'd already made the commitment to that.
Yes. I'm talking about guilt again. You shouldn't have to feel guilty about saying that. A society might judge you, but it doesn't mean one's not important at all. They're both very important. It's just that at this stage, that tips it. I'm sure at some stage the kid will tip it when business is going. It's one of those things, isn't it? That you have to really juggle it, spin these plates, and know that you're doing it for the right reasons. I'm sure we all are. We wouldn't be doing this if we weren't.
Right, yeah, you wouldn't be doing it if you weren't. And it seems to me like before I had a child, and I saw people who were leaving permanent jobs or full-time jobs to start their own businesses, and they were having children at the same time. It just seemed not insanity, but baffling to me that they had the courage to do that, right? And then I ended up doing it myself. I left my job, and had my child, and started my business all in the same few months, really. And and from the outside, I think that looks really weird. But when I hear you just put your finger on the absolute rationale for it, that I kind of missed in myself, which is it was a different decision, and it doesn't mean the two things are exclusive. You can have your child and you can also start a business, right?
This is the two. Yeah, you have your cake and eat it kind of thing, and the one does affect the other one in this kind of butterfly effect scenario.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's one of those things. Unless you make the direct tangent and tell somebody, I've done it for family reasons, not for selfish reasons. I've done it as a commitment to all of us to have a better life. Better time is valuable. You can't put a price on that, and that's a massive gesture. It's a huge gesture. I mean, I spoke to people who love being at work, who don't like spending time at home, and you know what I mean. And that to me is like madness, absolutely crazy. Like you spend time with strangers rather than time, but it does work for some people because it's time out. to be at home. But I guess for us people, we find it I'm more productive at home. I've got everything I need to see at home. We've got a computer, the internet. I'm connected to everybody here, really, who I want to be connected to. Um, so it's really working for us, and I think that's what it is. It's making it work for us, for our family, on a long-term view, not short-term, but as a long-term kind of view. And that's something that's changed as a dad. Before being a dad, it's been about me. What's happening this year? What's this sort of? Now I'm thinking 10 years ahead. I'm thinking 20 years ahead. What am I going to be? And what kind of dad? Where do we want to be in that time? So these are massive questions I never asked myself. And you've got to kind of, you can't answer them, but you kind of got to visualize it. Where do we see ourselves? And let's work towards it.
I think that's brilliant. That's another. I think that's another very powerful insight that will resonate with other people. It really struck me what you were saying there, that real shift in perspective when you have a child. Suddenly, the business isn't just about you. I have this picture almost like your board is your wife and your child as well as you now. But you're all stakeholders in your business, right?
That's an excellent way. Yeah.
And your success in it, your thriving in it, is about you, but it's not just about you, because it has an enormous impact on them and their well-being as well.
That's correct. That's it. And I guess what we're talking about is attaining that while attaining a great life balance.
Yeah.
We can all maybe attain that success, but at what cost? We never see our kids and families. That isn't a success to me. That's a failure. It's about marrying those two things together. And even if the business isn't a success and you have spent time with your family, that's still a success. Either way, the journey was the reward. You know what I mean? So that's the way I see it. So, yeah, it's live. It's a live situation we're in, and I like that. I guess I thrive off that. That motivates me to do stuff. So yeah, and it's hard to explain to people that unless they're in it. That motivation, it's addictive. And like every addiction, it's about curbing that addiction. You know what I mean? Taking time out.
Yeah, but what I like in what you shared, Jack, was that there's also there's a real perspective on what your business will do for you and your family, not just for you. So
yeah, that's a great takeaway.
Yeah. To me, that's just one of the really powerful things that's landed from this conversation. So let me just see. I've got through a ton of questions that I had for you. Yeah, I mean, we've kind of been touching on this actually. It's going to be a nice one to move into. So I've been sharing in my podcast my thing about personal freedom, and the story I've been sharing is that so I came to being a dad a little bit later in life than many people, perhaps not all people, but some people. And I suppose I got very used to my ways in life, and it was like a real shock for me that my sense of personal freedom as I knew it before I had a child got completely recalibrated. I could go out more or less when I wanted, do what I wanted, see who I wanted, hang out with who I wanted, all within respectful reason in a relationship. But that kind of really changed overnight when I had a child, and I know it's not the case for everybody. It's partly the choices I made as well. But I just wanted to know what your thoughts 6 months into having your child are around personal freedom. Has that been something that's touched you in any way?
I think you've kind of echoed my same one. Literally overnight, things changed. People say that, but nothing. They don't tell you how it changes. But you've mentioned your personal freedoms. Whatever that is, that changes. And I guess that's personal to different people. Maybe it could be something as small as if you're a smoker to stop smoking. You know what I mean? But it could be your timetable goes out the window. You have no timetable. There's no such thing. You are timetabled by this bag of bones and flesh, and it's sort of that's your boss. That becomes your boss now. And it's sort of I guess it's really hard to put that on hold because it's so quick. It's overnight. It's having your personal freedom and having it not. Then thinking about it, is it guilty? Should I feel Should I be seeing my friends now? I've got a baby. Is life by life going to be like this forever? Is this the way it is? Or should I have to fight for my freedoms now? Is it healthy that I do? I know it's healthy I do this, because to be a better dad and me be a better person. And, it's that we're kind of looking at a holistic point of view kind of thing.
Yeah, that's
and lucky enough, because we're talking about, we don't have to be there for biologically there for childcare for milk, whatever. We can leave for a bit, go back, come back, and have those personal freedoms. But I guess it's communicating that, not just going off on one and saying see you later, but I'm doing this, I'm going back, this is going to happen. But it's hard. I mean, I guess, like I said, my wife's been prepared for 9 months. She's been pregnant. She's mentally, physically been prepared for this. She's waited for this, in fact. For us guys, I guess, now it's only real. Now it's in the crib. It's in front of us. So we're really kind of simple things like going out the house. One of us has to be in all the time. Simple things like that. It's crazy. One of us has to be in the room all the time. So it just changes your total way of you realise what you took for granted. I guess is how I put it. You realise how free you were. And I'm sure that's something you can get back again. It's something we shouldn't lose, I don't think, because I think that we lose us in that that's a scenario. But maybe the freedoms change. Maybe what the things that you do change. Is that right in your case? Is what?
Yeah, I think that's just really worth picking up on what you were saying, which is it's kind of a recalibration of what your definition of freedom is, really, because it's not that having a child is a prison sentence, right? It's a choice.
That's right. That's right. No,
it's an active choice, and that recalibration is just seeing how that choice fits in with your life. I suppose the other thought I had when you were talking was there's something about mental health as well in there, which is it's of course you want to be present for your family. You want to show up, but at the same time you need to look after yourself, because if you're not able to function, that doesn't serve your family, and then of course it can't serve your business if you're not able to function. So that was the one thing I was thinking about, that there's a need to create some space for yourself to stay in good shape, right, in all senses.
Definitely. I think that's really important for both you and your wife to do that, to not feel guilty to spend time away from your children. It's healthy to do that. And again, it's fitting these things into it. And like I said, recognizing the mental health benefits of doing it. Sleep's a massive thing, I guess, at this stage, having that sleep deprivation. It has a massive knock-on effect on your day's work. You just can't think clearly. Things like that happen. And, so things I've done now is strategic napping. I've really built that into my day.
Nice.
Getting napping down to a T, and it's working really well. I'm sort of, doing a few hours, then doing a half an hour nap into it just to catch up and not feeling guilty, not feeling guilty that it's half an hour lost work. I'll gain better. I'll be better after this. And it's really worked putting those things. But I might have to extend my working day till 6 o'clock, for example, to build those in. But again, flexibility you mentioned, it's one of those key words that we have to do that. Yeah.
Brilliant. So I think we're coming just about to the end. Yeah, I mean, this is just a kind of last question. Is that I don't know if this is a fair question at this stage, but it's like, is this a lifestyle you'd recommend to others?
Is this a lifestyle I recommend to others? Ooh.
Having your own business and having a child.
Absolutely. You'd be surprised what you can do, where it can take you, and it's fun to do it with somebody else, to have somebody close to you to do this. So I would say that don't just focus on the end game of getting that business, getting that $1 million contract. It's the journey is the reward. It's doing this together, and at the end of it saying, we did this. You can say at the end of it, you know what, we did this together, and you know what, your children are looking at this all the time. So what a great role model. They're seeing dad working, mom working together, seeing you. How rare do your kids see it at work? They don't. They only see you being a parent or whatever. Just seeing daddy in the calls, whatever doing. It's like, oh wow, I can't wait for them. That might rub off on them. So being a
Brilliant
good,
insight. Yeah, I love that.
okay, great.
It's I've had such a great conversation, Jack. Really enjoyed it, and there's some beautiful nuggets in there that I think people will really, really appreciate. I certainly have. So if we want to find out more about you, where do we go?
Oh wow, you can go to just search for Just Jag. That's kind of justjag.co.uk. It's been fantastic talking to you, Matty. Too. It's good that there's other people out there doing this, and I think you've hit on something here. There's only going to be more of us in this situation who have had kids later in life, or it's sort of one of those things that a lot of people are doing at once. And how do you manage that tightrope? And I think I've learned a lot talking from you, just yourselves, and I can't wait to listen to your other guests.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to do this. And it's been a pleasure talking with you, Jack.
No worries, Matthew. Have a great day.